So I want to welcome everybody. It's been a while since we've been doing stuff with the Conscious World Club, but as we've progressed into 2022 and with everything that has happened, I really felt that this topic is so important. And lo and behold, Kris is going to, he has a course coming up at the end of July, which only happens once a year. And it's called, I forgot the title, but it has something to do with money manifestation.
The wealth manifestation. It's actually been 2 years since I did this course previously.
Wow. Yeah. So let me see. I have some people that want to join. Just going to ask Thomas, could you admit people into the room if I can't?
I did that already. I did that already.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, babe. So yes, I see people joining in all the time. So what I'm going to do is, I hope the recording is, I don't know which one is the best to use for the recording, Kris, the speaker or the immersive one?
Well, I don't know about that, but it's telling me that it's recording, so we'll just see what you get.
I'll put on speaker. So just basically what I feel that's going on in the world is we are drawn into victim and scarcity consciousness. And the more that I've been studying and the more courses that I've been to, and those of you who know me, I love studying. I started studying with the release technique when Kris was a mentor there in 2012. At that time, I was also studying Tony Robbins, and I was studying Dr. Joe. And in the meantime, I've done faster EFT, emotion code. I've worked with Psych K healers. I've done, everything under the sun that allowed me to clear blocks and to help me understand more of consciousness. But the course where I really manifested, big money, where I saw lots of people demonstrate that your consciousness creates your reality, was by all means, it was the release technique. And so just a little bit of my background. When I went into the release technique, I actually had a lot of panic attacks because I was working in corporate life for a long time. And of course, corporate life is super comfortable. The only person you just basically complain about your bosses, right? And your clients. So you're always like in a little bit of a victim mindset, but you're not aware of it because it seems so real. But when I decided, okay, I'm going to free myself, I'm going to start my own company, guess what happened? My consciousness was still there. And so I was like waking up with panic attacks. And later on, and during that time, I was in a relationship and I had panic attacks about the relationship as well. So when one of my Tony Robbins peer friends introduced me to release technique, I jumped on the Wednesday release calls, and I heard of all these demonstrations, which my friend told me about, of people who manifested turnarounds in their financial situation. And in the beginning, you think, well, this must be a scam, or maybe these people are all, they're paid money to say all of these things. But actually, in the release technique, you could go to the retreats. And I somehow decided that I was going to go to the retreat. So I went to the retreat and I actually met a lot of these people that have turned around their financial situation. And I committed to the technique because for me, these people were not different from you and I. They were just serious, either business people, or they just got into trouble with their companies or with the purpose in life, were they really happy in their job, etc. Or they were starting their own business like me. And when I joined the release technique, we were actually asked to work on goals. The first goal was to manifest 100, and you went from 100 to 1,000 to higher numbers. And literally within, I think, 6 months of really working diligently, because I had panic attacks. So for me, it was not like, oh, I'm not going to do it or I'm going to do it. I had literal panic attacks. And I don't know whether any of you understand what that means, but it means that you're paralyzed. It means that you start thinking crazy thoughts and you literally cannot think clearly. So for me, the release technique was like a discipline to actually quiet my mind. And within 6 months, I manifested, my life-changing belief altering manifestation that made me believe you can manifest things by the but system only. And so for those of you who are working with Dr. Joe, the but system is like creating from the fifth dimension. It means you don't have to go out there. You don't have to call people. You don't have to put up lots of marketing. You don't have to, like, I don't know, tell people, hey, I'm manifesting this amount of money or clients. Can you help me? So Kris has been my mentor since the beginning, and Kris has now decided to manifest living in Amsterdam, which is a city I know and love, of course, which is really fun to know that Kris is in my city, to see all his videos from my hometown. And I just want to give Kris the floor and ask you, Kris, what is the but system and how does this work? Because we've been so programmed to believe that money is really hard work and, competition, etc. And basically, what did you believe when you heard about the but system?
Okay. Well, to explain what the but system is, I have to explain who Lester Levenson is for anybody who doesn't know. And that's where all of this work comes from. Lester Levenson, he was a physicist and an engineer. And Lester, back in 1952, at the relatively young age of 42 years old, he had suffered his second massive heart attack. And back then, they didn't have the technology to fix him. They didn't have heart transplants or bypass surgery or anything like that. So looking at his condition, what they said to him was, Lester, we're sorry to tell you this, but we estimate that you have about 2 weeks to live. And we're not even going to keep you at the hospital because we can't do anything for you. We're just going to send you home to die, basically, is what they told him. And Lester, when he went home, the first thing that he said to himself was, Lester, you're stupid, stupid, stupid. Because he had spent his whole life devoted to understanding what truth is and what makes the whole universe work. He had studied physics, mathematics, psychiatry, psychology, economics, you name it. And the reason why he said to himself, Lester, you're stupid, 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 was he was just confronted with the realization that all those years and all that knowledge that he had accumulated over those years got him nowhere. Didn't get him the answers that he was looking for, only got him to the place where he was a dead man. Now, being a scientist, he's very practical. See, what scientists do is if the formula isn't working, you throw away the formula and you start from scratch.
Yes.
And that's what he did. He just started from scratch and he started to examine his life. And what he started to notice going through his life, just moment by moment, he saw that all the times in his life where he was sick, and it wasn't just the heart problem that he had perforated ulcers, he had jaundice several times a year, he had every allergy that you could think of. His whole body was a train wreck. So all the times that he was sick, all the times that his businesses were failing because he was a serial entrepreneur, he had a tendency to make money, lose it, make it, lose it. So all the times when things were bad, basically, he saw that he was looking for love, looking for recognition, looking for approval out there in the world, basically looking for happiness out there in the world. And he wasn't getting it. It was that looking for it that was causing all of his illnesses and all the calamities in his life. Whereas all the times when he was healthy and prosperous and his relationships were great, he saw that he wasn't looking for something out there to be. Instead, he was giving love and giving it freely without any thought of receiving anything in return for the giving whatsoever. And those are the times when his life was the greatest. So he asked himself, well, if I can let go of all my non-loving feelings and this habit of looking for happiness out there in the world, would that make a difference? At least in the last few weeks that I'm supposed to have to live. And that question led him to discover a natural ability that we all have to let go. And he started practicing this. He didn't know what he was doing. He was just kind of following the bouncing ball. But by doing this, in 1 month's time, he completely cured his body. Never had to see a doctor again for the rest of his life. And continuing on, letting go. Another month after that, he found that the same thing that cured his body also cured his pocketbook. He became a multimillionaire with no effort. This is what we call the butt system. And continuing and letting go, in a total of 3 months, he completely undid all of his negativity and undid his whole mind and ego and got to that Christ-like consciousness that we see in certain masters, like a Christ, a Buddha, a Ramana Maharshi, a Yogananda, an Eckhart Tolle, one of these great ones, that come around every once in a while. So Lester achieved that himself. He became a master, you might say. And he spent the rest of his time here showing others what he discovered. Now, when I learned this method, and he created, based on what he did to get there in just 3 months, he created a method that the rest of us could follow. And I studied with a student of his. And when he asked me, what I think about the butt system, well, basically just, describing who Lester is, that'll give you the premise of what the butt system is about. See, Lester was a free one, a master. So you take a master like a Christ or a Buddha. Like, did Jesus have to get a job? Did Buddha have to punch a time clock? Or any of these other masters? Do they have to work for a living? No, they're masters. And you see masters like Amma, the hugging saint. She's also a free one. And she's done incredible things. Built a hospital system, built a university system, has ashrams all over the world, has 200 charities. And she runs it all without really lifting a finger. She does it so effortlessly while also meeting with thousands of people each and every day. So talk about accomplishing a lot without any effort. So that is where a master comes from. And that's the premise behind the butt system, is that you don't need to put yourself to work. You don't need to lift a finger. You just get out of the way. Basically get your ego out of the way, get your concepts of limitation out of the way. And you have that same power as a Christ, as a Buddha, and so on. So when I first learned this method, I met somebody at that class who was very free. He was almost right there with Lester and the others. And he was at this class, he had been practicing this work for a couple of years. And I saw where he was at, and I was hearing about what he was manifesting. He decided to have a new car, and he got it within a couple of weeks. He decided to, manifest money and other things, and he just did it by the mere thought of it. And that's what Lester always pointed out, is can you create things by the thought of it,
alone.
just as a decision. And so I saw this guy doing these things, and I decided, well, if he could do it, I can do it. And like you had mentioned, one of the main things we work on is goals, to bring up our garbage, to bring up our thoughts of, oh, I can't, it's too hard, I'm not good enough, I don't have the right background, I have the right resources. All the sounds that play in our head. What Lester shows us is how we could erase those sounds. And nothing needs to be added. See, a lot of people that, go to Tony Robbins and, Jack Canfield and these other, law of attraction sort of gurus, they all say the right things. They all say that the mind is a creative instrument. All you have to do is just hold in mind what you want, and that's what you'll get. And technically, it's true. But their way of doing it is trying to override the negativity with positivity, with affirmations, with vision boards, and so on. And they're trying to, like with neurolinguistic programming, trying to reprogram the mind to be more effective. Well, basically, Lester's approach and all the masters is nothing needs to be added. You're already unlimited. All you need to do is get rid of the negativity, the concepts of limitation, and what's already there is all powerful, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. Nothing needs to be added. So,
and I would like to add something, Kris, which is very important, because those of us who have studied with a lot of the different law of attraction teachers, some of them are even like teaching you not to look at the negativity. And they say, oh my God, when you focus on something negative, you immediately manifest it. But what I've seen from really being obsessed about this topic is that the people and the techniques where people manifest is those that do look at their negative thoughts about money. And the way that I understand it, and those of us who understand conflicting intentions, if you, let's say you want money, but then on the other side, you feel guilty about having money, or you feel, oh gosh, if I have money, I have to pay taxes, or all these people will come and want my money. You have conflicting intentions. They cancel each other's out. So this is one of the most powerful, I think, daily things that the release technique or the power of quiet technique teaches us, is to really have a goal in mind, but to really see what are your attachments and what are your aversions, because you will have both. And as long as that goal doesn't show up in your life, or this thing doesn't manifest effortlessly, there is attachment and aversions, or feelings of lack and separation that are manifesting in your life. And so from that perspective, I think there is a flawed premise. I think maybe other people don't have to look at their negativity and they manifest like crazy, but most people that I know, including myself, had to look at my conflicting and canceling out my positive mind, vision board, mind movie type of things. And I think this is very important to stress, that some people in law of attraction world, are they super spiritual, they have all the books, but they're still not manifesting. And I would like to say, from my experience and the people that have joined the release technique with Kris because of my introduction, I've seen the manifestings. I would like to say, if you're not manifesting doing all these other techniques, maybe there are very, hidden or not so aware thoughts and beliefs and feelings that you're walking around with that are canceling out your manifestation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, my internet connection just went down a little bit, so I think I got it corrected here.
Yeah.
So basically, when we're talking about the mind, that's the thing that we have to deal with. And what you're describing is that when we use our mind, it is a creative instrument, but it's got a bunch of noise in there, both conscious and subconscious noise. And when you look at a particular goal that you have, like manifesting a lot of money, being wealthy, you have thoughts in support of it. Oh, that would be great. I would love that lifestyle. That is something that I could really get behind and go after. But you also have thoughts to the contrary. Oh, it's risky. Hardly anybody does it. If you get too much money, you're going to end up like a Donald Trump, you're going to be a nasty person, don't want to be like that, and on and on and on. And basically, whatever thoughts, you kind of like look at it like a scale, a tipping scale. Whatever
Yes.
thoughts are, are more predominant, towards that goal or against it, that's what you get.
Yeah.
So, like I said, a lot of people do, when they try to practice the law of attraction, is they try to override the negativity. And the best description of that approach is it's trying to like put a Band-Aid over cancer. It's like covering up all that negativity with this positive thought. And it might work.
Oh, wow.
Lester, when he's talking about affirmations, he said, well, if you have to repeat something 1,000 times before it manifests, that just means that the previous 999 times you didn't accept it. You didn't believe that it was true. But at that 1,000th time that you actually accepted it, that's when it manifested. Now, rather than trying to weave through of, how do I just get that perfect picture, which a lot of us, we get hung up trying to figure out, well, what do I do about it? The Lester's approach is nice and simple, and it follows along with the whole methodology of every other master that preceded him. See, if you listen to Ramana Maharshi or Eckhart Tolle or any of these others, what is their message? What is their purpose, like their goal for you to do? It's simply to quiet the mind, right? And they all have different ways of doing it. Basically, meditation. What is meditation? Whether it's yoga or it's a mantra or it's breath work, what you're doing is you're focusing on just one thing, right? My breath or the mantra, focusing on that only, putting all my attention on that to the exclusion of everything else. Now, as you do that, and if you make it a very serious practice over time, basically the way meditation works is like if I'm talking to you, just like the mind talks to you, but you never talk back, you never acknowledge or respond to me, eventually I'll kind of give up talking to you. That's the way meditation works. And it's a very passive way of quieting the mind. Now, what Lester's done is he created an active way of quieting it by identifying what is creating that noise to begin with. And that is all the noise that comes up when you focus on a goal, all that negativity, the negativity that we typically don't want to look at. We're like, ugh. But basically, yes, you bring that up, and Lester gives you a very simple tool to release it. And once you release that negativity, all the noise, all that commotion in your mind, like when you think about, well, what does it take to be a millionaire? And your mind just gives you a bunch of noise. Well, all you have to do is just quiet the mind. And then what's left over is just a simple thought, a decision. I'm a millionaire. That's it. And it happens like that. So Lester's method, not only does it create a easy, practical, and 100% achievable way of getting there, because rather than trying to slap a Band-Aid over that tumor called, the mind and its negativity, it's just getting rid of the whole thing, clean the whole thing up. And it gets you to that place where not only can you just create one goal, but you can just create whatever you want by the mere thought of it. Once you get to that place where all the noise in your mind is quiet, all the interference is gone. But also, it gets you to that place of self-realization by quieting your mind. So really, the advantage is twofold. You get to master your world, but then in that process, you yourself become a master in the total sense. So that's what's really brilliant about this method.
I think what is very important to know is to explain it to people is that sometimes we try to wrestle down our thoughts, and we try to, basically, let's say we think a negative thought, we feel horrible, then we say, oh my God, I have to change my mind, I have to think a positive thought. But actually what the release technique gives you as a technique is to actually teach you a kinesthetic way of releasing all the negative emotions. And by not so much even having to focus on the thought, but to focus on the emotions and the feelings that are coming up. And the kinesthetic method, I feel, for myself and for a lot of people, was almost like a hack into quieting the mind. Because a lot of the time, if you keep on engaging the mind, you actually are completely trapped because you don't even know what's right or real. And then you try to find, the answer outside of you. You go to therapy, you go to, I don't know, do ayahuasca or something. I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody here. I love you to death. You know all of that. Most of the people here, I know you all. But I think really what helped me and helps me daily is now I do not have to sit on these negative feelings. And, you know, at any time now, when I look at the news of the world, for instance, or I think, oh my gosh, I'm worrying again about the world, because I do worry about the world. I care about the world. I sort of like, oh gosh, let go of this feeling. And then I feel my mind quieting. And I say, you know, and I remember what the release technique teaches us. Everything is your picture, which is taking complete responsibility and canceling out victim consciousness, which all of us know from every teaching, including Dr. Joe and Abraham Hicks, etc. And the other one is everything is your decision. And so these two principles that are almost like forcing you to take responsibility, meaning everything is your consciousness, and the other one, which is if you're poor, it's a decision. If you're sick, it's a decision. If you're wealthy, it's a decision. And to then say, oh my God, you know, this is easier said than done, because actually what I've noticed is releasing is an ongoing thing, but it's not a difficult thing to learn. And what I've seen from people, you know, and there's a few people here that actually worked on money goals and they manifested it. And so I think, you know, I don't know whether there are questions here, but maybe put your questions in the chat, or you can put yourself on the camera and ask the question live as well. But maybe, Kris, you know, I love always how you talked about your manifestations from money, from the, let's say, with the bud system. Because, you know, but in the beginning, when you hear it, you're like, wow, this is mysterious. How is this possible? But then you see it happen over and over again. And I've seen it happen in the Dr. Joe community. I've seen it happen in other communities that I'm with, but also in my own life. And we here have this level of consciousness that we do know it is possible to manifest doing nothing, just changing our consciousness. Would you like to share the manifestation that you feel is the one where you really believed, oh my God, I can do it and all of us can do it?
Well, there's lots of that. Actually, I had something else in mind, and it's not even money related, but it proves a point of what the bus system is all about. Now, before I get into that, I want to explain a couple of premises about where Lester's coming from, where all the masters are coming from. And that is, you know, when we talk about the negativity, you know, it's not just, you know, the negativity that we hold in mind is not just the obvious, I can't, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve it, and on and on and on. But really at the core of the negativity, it's desire. And basically every other master in some way points this out. You look at Buddha, you know, his fourfold noble truth is, you know, life is suffering and the cause of suffering is desire. So in order to get rid of suffering, you got to end desire. And even in the Bible, it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So wanting is our biggest hang up. And a lot of us, we can recognize that a lot of the goals, a lot of things that we are looking for that we are not getting are things that we are wanting very much. And this is a hard thing to really get over because we've been brought up to value wanting, right? Yeah, the whole world works on wanting. Look at how advertising works. It's all about stirring up your desire, your lust. Oh, I got to have that, right? You know, once I have that, you know, whether it's a soda or a big house, there's this sense of once I have that, it's going to be so wonderful. It's going to taste so delicious. It's going to be so great, and on and on and on. Basically, once I get that thing, I'm going to be happy. And we're tying our happiness out there, but it never is out there.
We postpone it.
Yeah. And when you're talking about the butt system, see, one of the ways that Lester pointed out the consciousness of mankind, all the people on the planet, is that in one way of looking at it, there's 3 stages of consciousness: of having, doing, and being. Now, 90% of the world is in a consciousness of having. It doesn't mean that they're in consciousness where they have things. It's a consciousness of, if I could have that thing, I'll be happy. And so it's really a slave-like mentality, because it's this mentality that has us slaving away to work for a paycheck, right? So I got to put in work so I can get that money, so I could put food on the table, I keep a roof over my head. If I could just have that money, if I could have that guaranteed income, I'm set, right? So it just has us working away. I got to do these things, A, B, C, and D, in order to have my money, to have all my wherewithal in the world. Now, like I said, that has us slaving away, whether we're working for somebody else or even if we have our own business, we're slaving away for our clients, and we got to keep doing and hustling in order to keep it going, right? So whatever we're doing, we're having to work for it in order to get that result. And it's also the same mentality of, of having my protection be guaranteed either by the government, by law enforcement, by the military, to keep those bad guys away from me, rather than put it upon my own responsibility, just to look out for myself, or rely on other, like, social devices, healthcare, and so on. Well, if I could have a good healthcare plan and have the right doctors, right, then I'll feel safe and secure. Yeah, but everybody still dies anyway. And as long as we are coming from the state of, well, if I could just have things given to me, that healthcare, that paycheck, and all this other stuff, then I'm taken care of. We are at the mercy of those devices, right? And that's what got me started on this path, was because I got laid off, right? So if that paycheck suddenly stops coming, we're in a crisis. Or if there's a problem with the healthcare system, we're in a crisis. I got nothing else to do. This thing that was supposed to take care of me, it's gone. Now the rug is pulled out from under me. What do I do now? And that's when we start searching for answers. We go to Dr. Joe, we, learn how to release and so on, so that I can get the answers for myself, because I can't depend on it out there, right? So that's that consciousness of having. That's where most of the world, like 90% is at, is if I could just have things, if I could just have that house, if I could just have that passive income, whatever, then I'll be happy. Now, there's about almost 10% of the people that are coming from a place of doership. So instead of coming from this mindset, if I could just have these things be given to me, I'll be happy, they're coming from a place of, well, if I could do things, I could be happy. Or if I could achieve things. These are the big doers. They tend to be the CEOs, the big entrepreneurs that go out there and really do a lot. Take like Elon Musk as an example, or even Donald Trump. I mean, whatever you think about him, you have to recognize the guy's a big doer. First of all, he was a businessman, did all this stuff. And you coming from a place, if I just do this, do that, be successful at this, I could be happy. Now, in business, that wasn't good enough. Then he had to become a celebrity, he had to become famous. If I could, do this great reality show and have that be successful, then I'll be happy. But see, even that wasn't good enough. Now I've got to become president and become the ruler of the free world. Then I'll be happy. So it's this never-ending quest in order to look for happiness. So those are like 10%, like the big doers in the world that are in that mindset. Now, a very small fraction, and this is like the Lesters and the Ramana Maharshis, the Buddhas and so on. What they realize is, if I could just be, that's it. That's everything I need in order to be happy. And that's what we're talking about with the but system. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to lift a finger. You just be. And you've probably heard people say, well, just be, let go, just be in the flow and have everything come your way. The problem is they don't really show you how to do it. And a lot of us, to some degree, we're in that category of, I gotta have. And we want to jump from the havingness to the beingness without the doingness in between. So I see a lot of these people come around a lot where they'll come and learn Lester's method. And they're saying, well, maybe Lester will give it to me, give me the right formula so I can have a great life and I can be free. But they're not willing to do the work in order to get there. They're not willing to, like you had mentioned earlier, working on goals, working on the attachments and aversions, looking at the negativity. Like, I don't want to do that. That's too much. And I don't want to be bothered by that. I just want someone to come and tap me on the head and just make everything go away. Right? I see a lot of these people, they go to Amma, they get go to get a hug from her in order to have all their problems gone. Now they get a little bit of a lift because hanging around a free one, you resonate with that, but they mistakenly think that she does it for them. But a lot of these people, they'll come to this method, oh, this doesn't work. Maybe this other person will do it for me. Or if I learn this secret from this guru, maybe that'll do it. And they just bounce, from one thing to another, looking for a give it to me sort of a thing, rather than what do I need to put into it? And what's great about Lester's method is that it gives you the how-to to do it. It gives you the structure that you take it upon yourself to undo that negativity. And so you go through this doingness phase. You go through the courageousness and the attitude of taking responsibility for everything. Right? Nobody else out there is doing anything to thwart my success or to make me unhappy or to make my world a bad place. Right? I'm not going around like a Greta Thunberg, yelling at people, you got to change. It's upon me.
Yeah, you have to change, not me.
I'm not going to force others to change, right?
Yeah.
Make them be carbon neutral or whatever, so I can feel safe and secure. I'm going to look with myself. I'm going to find the answers within. So this gives you the method to do it. Now, we're talking about pretty, kind of a pretty big picture, 36,000 foot view of the whole thing. But I want to, you're asking about, one of my gains or, experiences in this. So I want to demonstrate something very practical that I did very recently. It's not even money related. Now, one of the things that I've been very interested in my whole life is photography. One of my first jobs was working in the camera store, and I really liked it. And I fancied myself as like a photographer, but I really didn't put the time in. Like I kind of did sporadically here and there and throughout my life, but most of the time neglecting it. Now, over the years, I came up with some pretty nice photos, but if I look at the majority of my work, I'm like, what was I thinking? So about a year ago, I decided, you know what? I'm going to get good at this. And I decided that I was going to participate in a photography workshop that I just completed a few weeks ago. It was like a week and a half long workshop that was conducted by two very serious photographers. You know, not your kind of Instagram sort of, you know, putting out content for likes, you know, for an audience that has like a 3-second attention span, but people that have been photojournalists, documentary photographers for over 30 years, and fine art and fashion photographers who work in the industry, work with galleries, work with publishers, you know, editors, the real serious work that are into long form and having a body of work that isn't just, oh, that's nice, and scroll on, but get you to stop and really contemplate what they have to show you. So I was like, that sounds pretty good. I don't know if I'm up to snuff to that. But the other thing is, I had in mind when I signed up for this that, you know, I'd been enjoying shooting on film. I have this film camera that I've been shooting with that's a year older than I am. And I wanted to take that and do the whole workshop on that. And because I'm shooting on film, one of the things that they're going to focus on is taking the work that we do at the workshop and creating a whole book out of it. So you have a series of photos, and part of it is editing and sequencing the photographs and putting in copy and really, you know, putting together a whole piece of work. And I thought, well, I want to shoot film. How am I going to participate doing the bookmaking? If all my stuff I had to wait to get developed. So I thought, well, I'm going to start working on a project in advance, get all that developed and ready to go. I'm going to take that with me, and that's what I'm going to do for the book. So I started on this project a year ago, and I'd go out regularly, you know, shooting with this project in mind. And as I'm doing it, see, now I'm stepping into doing something to get that result, right? Now, as I'm going out and taking pictures, problems show up, obstacles. I'll go out, I'll go through the city for 4 hours, come back with nothing. I do that several days in a row. It's like, oh, I don't know, I'm just not getting anywhere. Maybe I should put this down for a while. But then I just catch myself. Well, what is my intention? I'm just going out, just seeing what comes to me versus, you know, if I'm not getting anything, well, that's my consciousness. So the next day I'm going to go out, I'm going to set an intention. I'm going to just simply decide, I'm going out today, I'm going to get 3 amazing photos for this project. And that's it. And I come back with 6 photos in my mind. It's like, wow, I did pretty good this day. So I'm applying this method as I'm extending, putting myself out there to get a result. And as I'm practicing the releasing, practicing incorporating the but system with taking action, all of a sudden, I'm just going out now. I have my intention set, and things are just rolling. And by the end of this photographing process, I probably shot about, you know, old school rolls of film. Yeah, I shot about 250 rolls during the course of this project. And I go through and it's like, wow, I got some really great stuff here. And also, overall, the consistency of my work. It's like, I'm looking and like 98% of my stuff, it's not like, what was I thinking? It's like, oh, it's pretty good. With a very few select shots that are really exceptional. It's like, wow, that's really great stuff, at least in my own mind, right? Now, I bring all this work to this workshop, and I show up and I'm kind of nervous, really, because, you know, these are real professionals, and I've seen the way that they talk and, you know, the realms that they come from. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know, I'm going to show them my work and either get torn apart or at the very least, I'm going to be sitting there looking at them. They're going to be looking at me. And they'll go, well, what do you think about your work? I'm going, I don't know. It needs improvement. So these are the scenarios in my mind. But when I get there, they loved it. They loved what I brought them. And I was looking for feedback, like, maybe they'll tell me to do this, my composition, or, take this approach or whatever. And I'm looking for like these types of feedback. I wasn't getting any. So they're not really giving me any guidance. But then I got some real good indirect feedback, like because I was shooting film, the fine art photographer who was really kind of going in and looking at people, what they were shooting during this workshop to make sure, that they were on the right track and to help them along. She said, oh, I don't need to see your stuff. I know what you're going to do is good. And the other guy, there's the photojournalist and the documentary photographer. He would just give me comments like, yeah, oh, I know you're going to have some really great stuff because I see the way that you're framing stuff and I see the work that you're putting into it. I know you got some really good stuff in there. Also, he'd say that he described how he was kind of working with some people that we'd show up at a scene and you'd be working with some of the other participants that would be a little bit more timid to approach people or, unsure of what they were going to do at that scene. But he said, you just went in without fear or hesitation. You knew what you're looking for and you just started working that scene immediately, right? So I get that sort of feedback. I was like, oh, I guess I'm on the right track. But as I got to the workshop, now I have a whole nother set of problems to put together. Is now I have to sequence these photos that I shot from the year before into a book. And that's a whole nother, art form, is putting these pictures in an order that compels the viewer to go through the whole book and, that work with each other and make sense. And, there's all these psychological things, stuff that just make your mind spin and stuff that I was already spinning on. Like when I was going through my selection of what I wanted to show them, just put in the order of just what I wanted to show them was like, let alone putting them into a book and putting it into print. So I was confronted with, how am I going to do this? Now, instead of getting into my mind and trying to study this and figure it out, I just got out of the way. And everything just went into order so effortlessly. And both of those instructors, they looked at what I put together, the sequencing of these photos, and they're like, wow, that's amazing. I wouldn't even have thought of that. And, one of them said, it's like, this is your first book? Damn. And not only that, up to that point, I was so worried on the photographs, I didn't even get to work on the copy yet. The copy I was going to also put into the book. And I was thinking, well, maybe I'm going to have to do that afterwards and so on. But as I'm putting this book together, I'm going, okay, here's where I need copy. And I have a premise in mind. And the original premise I had when I got to the workshop, I was like, how's it going to work? What am I going to write? How am I going to put this together, narration-wise too? And when I would try to write something, try to make it happen, it's always difficult. I just get jammed up. And I just stop. Okay, no, let's not go there. I'm just getting stuck in my mind. So I just let go. I just release, and then it would just flow out of me. So basically, in that week, not only did I put all the pictures together, I wrote all the copy, and at the end of it, I created the whole book here. So, from start to finish, I just created the whole thing, and it's really an amazing thing. With some great photos and
Kris knows Amsterdam and Holland better than the Dutch people, I'll tell you, because I'm a friend of his on Facebook. I think, Kris, this is a beautiful example of
And
how even if you know the method, your mind still comes and tries to, like, tell you how to do it, or say, oh, I actually don't know how to do it. Whereas I think what you're trying to explain to us is there's a level of our consciousness that knows what to do. And even with a problematic or scarcity consciousness ridden topic as money, as how to, put bread on the table, how to survive, this inflation problem that's going on, and the war and the oil crisis and blah, blah, blah. These are all things where when we release, and we do not even have to go and go and ask, I don't know, Robert Kiyosaki or an investment expert, we actually do know the answers. And I think that's what you're trying to explain. And I really want people, if you have a question, please ask and put it in the chat if you don't feel comfortable about asking it. But I think it might, I'm not sure whether you would like to give an example of a money demonstration, maybe even during COVID, or when you lost your job, because there is so much fear and scarcity amongst us. And you know this, because the reason why I love your videos, Kris, and your whole YouTube, is you're always on topic of what's going on. You're not like one of these teachers that are, oh no, let's not talk about the negative stuff. You actually confront it. And so maybe could you, there's lots of stuff going on in the world. Maybe you can give an example of how when you were down and out and you were confronted with, I don't know, stuff that was going on in your environment, how you got out of the mind and how you just manifested by the bud system only. And also somebody was asking for clarification on what is the bud system exactly?
Okay, so you basically said it when you said get out of your mind. Now, most of us, we kind of recognize that it's better when we quiet the mind. I think most of the people in your community here are very spiritual in nature. So part of us, we kind of understand that. We would get quiet, that the mind is really not your friend, but both consciously and unconsciously, out of habit, we still come from the premise that we need that mind. And
they're mostly programs.
Is to be protected, it is our friend, it is there for us, it entertains us, and it's there to help us. When we don't know what to do, we ask our mind, right? Tell me what to do. Tell me how to figure out the situation and what to do about it. And sometimes it appears to have good answers, and that's what keeps us relying on it and hanging on to it. But if we really stop and look at our mind and the way it talks to us, it becomes very clear very quickly that not only is it not our friend, it's really our nemesis, because 99.9% of what runs to that mind, it's all negative. It's all about problems, worries, I can'ts, judging, being dissatisfied, and on and on and on. That's what the mind chews on. And if we would just look at the times in our life, like Lester did, like the times in our life when everything is great, when we are feeling the most at ease, the most successful, the most happy, our mind is nowhere in that picture. And in those times, we're not thinking about anything. We're not worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. We're not worried about the economy or gas prices. We're not worried about that meeting that we have next Tuesday. We're just in the moment, enjoying what is right here, right now. Right? Isn't that when you're the happiest? In those moments, your mind is not even there.
And I think even if I look at what's going on, during the pandemic and all the stuff that's been thrown at us, and I am a real, one of my hidden aims is to be a master and to be free, and not because it's my ego, but because I believe it's our birthright because of what I've seen around us. And in the area of money and of relationships, I achieved it during, I would say, the most stressful time in our lives, because the pandemic and everything that happened around was very stressful for me. And even then I was demonstrating things. So from that perspective, I would say, even though we tend to listen to the mind/programs, we can still, when we do the inner work, we can still transcend it and allow ourselves, our programs and our mind and our addictions to let's say, to eliminate it, to neutralize it to some extent, that the things that we want just show up in our lives. And they show up. Sometimes we'll have to do things like, maybe we are inspired to do a course. Maybe we're inspired to meditate more. Maybe we're inspired to really look into the programs that are running us, and not to just be in denial and feel happy. So I would say for everybody it's different, but I feel that every course that Kris creates, especially the money one, he goes very deep into a lot of the deep money programs we have. And so what Kris calls the mind is what other teachings call programs. And programs and the programs of the mind, they don't serve us. They're actually very limiting. And they are all
programs.
Yes. So basically when Kris says get out of the mind, he's referring to us actually downloading divine knowingness, from the quantum field. That knowledge is already there.
Yeah. I don't like the word downloading, because that implies that you're getting something from something outside of you. Basically,
you think it's already one with us?
Yeah, I mean, like in the Bible, it says, let go and let God. And that's really what it's like. It's like you get your ego, your mind out of the way. And what is left over? And this is my point earlier, in that nothing needs to be added. Unlike, what a lot of the law of attraction people do is like reprogram or add positive stuff. When you get the negativity out of the way, what's left over is unlimitedness, all-knowingness. And Lester, he was very direct about it. And see, what I like about Lester, you hear a lot of talks, and there's a really great talk that we'll share, and you've got that link, the CWC link that people can put in their email address and get that video, that talk from Lester. Because unlike a lot of other masters that you may have listened to, like Eckhart Tolle, Lester doesn't talk in metaphors. He doesn't beat around the bush. He's very direct and very practical. And he says flat out just how powerful you are. And if you get your mind out of the way, if you stop listening to that voice in your head, you'll have answers for everything. To the degree that you can go to a nuclear physicist, even though you've never studied nuclear physics yourself, and give that person answers in their field, even though you've never studied it for yourself. It's that specific in your all-knowingness. You have answers for everything. If you just get your mind out of the way, it's not something that you download, it's coming from you, and it's direct, it's instantaneous.
I love that, Kris. I love that.
The butt system, whether it's like, the example with, the photo book and the photography, I have an idea in my mind of, hey, I want to be a good photographer. And I just released all my concepts. I just quieted my mind as I went through the process. And I just quieted the thoughts of, how do I do this? And once the thought of how do I do this is out of the way, what's left over is, I'm doing this. That's it. And it's a decision. And I don't know how it came about. I don't know how I got pictures that one of them said, oh, those look like the work of Magnum photographers from the 60s. It's very Magnum-esque is another comment I got. It's like, wow, that's pretty good company to be referred to. And and having everything just flow together like effortlessly. I didn't have to work at it. It just, I looked at it and I just saw myself putting it all together. Boom, that's it, done. So that's the but system that we're talking about, where you just get out of the way. You have answers for everything. You don't have to lift a finger. You just decide and things happen.
The but system is actually when I was taught it, it was like you do nothing but release. You do nothing but sit on your butt and release. And Larry Crane, who was the teacher of Kris, he was like a bit of a multimillionaire. And he would give the example of basically he was just in his, I don't know, his office, and he would just release on his goals. And then the sales teams would just come in, hitting all the targets, so, and I've seen things happen that I could have never imagined them. I didn't even have them on my vision board, but I did release on it as a goal. But how it would happen very mysteriously and outside of my framework of thinking or belief. And I even set goals that I didn't believe, Kris, and I manifested them because I think I just did it for fun, because it was such a big goal that I thought, I'm not sure I'm going to get it, but I'm just going to release on it because I feel like if I'm going to be in this course, I'm going to manifest things that I don't even believe in. And I did manifest them. So I really think this is a very important understanding of how powerful and unlimited we are. And all of us believe that here, but we may not be demonstrating it in all areas yet. I don't know, Runa, you've been putting a lot of things in the chat, and I can only read a little bit of it. I don't know. Runa has, joined Kris in his courses. I don't want to put you on the spot, Runa. You don't have to if you don't want to. But yeah,
I can do it.
Hey, you are Runa. Hi, Runa.
Hi.
Nice to see
No, I
you.
just wanted to, I don't know how I look, doesn't matter. It seems like everything is foggy,
Wonderful.
but that's probably. I just wanted to say, Kris, thanks for last time. Yes, I manifested actually. Kris knows this, and you know this as well, Angelique. I manifested 100,000 at least euros after doing Kris course last time, and but the money thing for me has been a jumpy thing, especially now, and. But I'm totally, I still release to this day. I work with someone I met as a partner during one of the Kris's courses, and I have very much inner peace. I do. And what you're talking about, Kris, about having answers and stuff like that at work is like, I don't even think about giving answers in the meetings, and where does that come from? I have no idea. I say it just rents out of me. I don't think at all. So not calling it download, but in the wisdom, maybe. I don't know where it comes from. It's just there. But it's still all this thing about money. Relationship has been better. I even speak, and that I didn't do for 6 years or seven maybe, with my former husband. We do speak now. I chatted to him earlier today actually, and I don't have this clinging feeling that I need him anymore. So that's something we know about Angelique from before. So of course I do also the Dr. Joe meditation, but I really found what I really found from you, Kris, was the inner peace. It's much easier to find. Of course, I jump and get off the wagon all the time.
It's the money. It's not the big deal, but it is a big deal for a lot of us. And we see what's going on in the world right now. I mean, even Angelique, we were having a conversation a few days ago about just all the news that we get bombarded with.
Yeah.
About scarcity and supply chains and so on. And all that can creep into your consciousness if you're not releasing on it.
Yeah, I really try to release it all the time, because it's like I want to go places, I want to do stuff, and sometimes how the hell should I pay the rent today? No, not today, but it's like I don't have that option yet, but I'm still making all this noise in my head of what's gonna be happen tomorrow or next year or whatever. It's like, it's frenetic.
Now, actually,
it's like, yeah.
Based on your point about, it's the inner peace is what we're really coming for. It brings me back to my teacher, Lester's student. His name was Larry Crane. And Larry, he was a self-made millionaire before he even met Lester. He was somebody who grew up in the Bronx in a very, very poor family. And he put himself to work, working 3 jobs to put himself through college. And when he did that, he saw some of his colleagues, after they got out of college, start going out and making a lot of money. And he thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And he became this very aggressive businessman that, his attitude was, get out of my way. If you don't get out of my way, I'm going to run you over. So he fought and clawed his way to the top, and he became very successful. He had like a private jet, he had, a penthouse apartment in Manhattan and all this stuff. And what brought him to Lester was he had all this stuff. He even had Time magazine write an article about him. And the very evening that article was published, he walked out on the terrace of his penthouse apartment and contemplated jumping off of it for about 3 hours. Just stood there looking over the edge, because he got to the place where all these rich and famous people get to, where you get all the things that the world says is supposed to make you happy, right? The money, the fame, all that stuff. And it's not enough. It's never enough. And that's why all these celebrities, they turn to drugs, they do all these crazy things, they commit suicide, almost all of them. He encountered the same thing himself. Now, I told you that because, he met Lester, and, he turned his life around and, studied with Lester for about 20 years and continued on Lester's work. Now, his business success came from direct mail. He was one of the first people that, when you see these, I don't know if you see them so much now, but they used to be on television, where it's like the best of Elvis or the best of the Beatles. They're like these compilation records that you would order online for mail order. He was like one of the first people to go out and do that. And he did like Elvis Greatest Hits and all that stuff after he passed away and so on. And that's how he made a lot of money. So he was like this direct marketing expert. And when he was putting out Lester's course, his marketing was like, it was like one of those ads that you would turn on, in the middle of the night, for, for cleaning or whatever, just these kind of crazy sort of, direct mail in your face sort of marketing sort of things. And it was all about be a millionaire, make a lot of money, or for health. So a lot of people, they were like these, coming in for this get rich quick sort of mentality. I'm going to learn this so I can make a lot of money, or I'm going to learn this so I can fix my health. But they quickly realized it's not even about the money or the health. It's about, realizing your mastership and going free in the ultimate sense. So it's kind of like a little bait and switch in that sense of, the hook is have all the money, that kind of ego greed that latches onto that, but you suddenly realize it's a whole bigger picture than that. And now that's what I want. So going back to, this topic of money, it's really a brilliant thing, because the way it's set up and the reason why we're really focusing on money and manifesting not just a stable income, but manifesting wealth. You know, that's why we call the course the wealth manifestation course. It's because in our minds, you know, if we're constantly thinking about, all right, well, I gotta keep having money come in through that door. I gotta, you know, worry about protecting my assets and what's going on in the economy right now. We're constantly worried about, you know, those concerns. We can't even think about going free. We're always in the world, in this problem, that problem, worried about this, you know, resisting that, making sure not to fall for that. And it has our attention focused down here, looking away from ourselves and who we really are. And all this thinking about making my life work and, you know, my relationships and all this stuff, we're looking away from our peace and happiness and not realizing that it's been within us all along. So basically, the whole purpose of this wealth manifestation course is basically to give you a roadmap and set you up to be successful financially. So then at that point, it's covered. You're not having to worry about, you know, you're making my ends meet next month, or, you know, I got 3 months where, you know, I can sustain myself, but then I had to go back to work or do something, where that's not, you know, that's not even a consideration. That's working for you. So then now you can look at, well, if I can create that, what else can I create? What else am I made of? And then you can go for that bigger picture, that total realization. So that's really the purpose of this.
And when Kris talks about, you know, the wealth, I mean, when you start to manifest the money coming from, Dr. Joe would call the unknown or unified field, or without you actually doing something, and you start to see that your mind is out of the way, and you get all these, you know, you get way more into a space of knowing what to do without having to worry about it, whether, you know, over analyzing whether it's going to work or not, and it just works out. When you're in that place, you just know that we actually are not in that place automatically unless we are in a place where we're always successful. But in the places, as Kris said, where you're struggling and where you feel a lot of lack, let's say you want to level up and go to, I don't know, a 6-figure salary, 6-figure turnover, 7-figure or financial freedom, whatever it is, when you haven't manifested it yet, you will feel what Kris calls, or the release technique calls, this lack or wanting. And what we're not saying in the release technique that wanting, you shouldn't want, but what we are saying is, if you can get out of the mind, which is your scarcity consciousness programming, you can actually realize that you can embody the beingness or the true self that can actually have it. And so, because the way that sometimes people think about it, oh, it's like, if I follow this technique, then I can manifest all of this, but actually, no, you can. But it comes from a consciousness of embodying and being that from the inside, and then allowing yourself to just know what to do and know what to sometimes even not to do, because literally sometimes things drop in your lap, that's what I experienced, right? Mm-hmm. And then you realize how powerful you are, because it's not just for money, but it's also for your relationships. For me, I struggled a lot with relationships. And until I bought Kris's relationship course, where I had to dig up all the dirt and the victim consciousness that I was in my relationships, I couldn't manifest my current partner. And all of these other partners were like the same in different bodies. And, you know, and Kris also changed a lot of his things in his life, including he first manifested the money, and then he also turned around his relationship. So this is why I really, you know, I've seen Kris change over the years, and I've seen him talk openly about the things that he was, you know, manifesting or changing around. And this is, I think, it's so beautiful to see, you know, not like, oh, Kris is another Jesus or, you know, Buddha. Kris is Kris. And if Kris can do it, I can do it, Rune can do it, and all of you can do
Between
it.
those two examples, either I have too much or too little hair to qualify.
Yes. We love you just the way you are, by the way. So, so Buddha, I don't know whether Buddha is like, does he have a big belly or not? I don't even know, because I like the little statuettes where Buddha has a big belly like this. But anyways, Kris was once obese, was not like quite overweight. He was big, and he even manifested being thin and being able to eat whatever he
Yeah, I
wanted.
mean, see, this applies to everything. I broke my shoulder, split the bone, but I healed it in 2 weeks and was lifting weights at that point. I dropped a 15-year smoking habit in a couple of hours. I
Yes.
dropped 50 pounds or 25 kilos in less than a month.
Yes.
Done all
Yes.
sorts of things, just health-wise. So, you know, when we talk about abundance, it's not just an abundance of money, but it's an abundance of health, an abundance of time, abundance of everything. And all of this points to how unlimited you are. I mean, we all have a
Yes.
concept of God, like God created the whole universe. So did you. Right?
And that's
God
where
can
we
do it.
start. That's where
You
we
are doing
don't.
it.
And some of us, I think a lot of us understand it conceptually, but to prove it to yourself, I think that is freedom. And that is what I think I unconsciously knew that I wanted to be a master, which is like Dr. Joe says, don't be a philosopher, you know, don't just
Right.
know it. Now you have to be it. And this is what all of us, I think, you know, in this day and age, I think maybe it's a blessing that all of these things in the world are also already, they're forcing us to actually become the creator and to know our power instead of being the other option, which is being a victim. I
And that's
really
where
want
Lester
to.
was coming from. And he
Yeah.
said, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Yeah.
Right? And that was his whole, you know, before he even became realized. You know, he was a scientist. And being a scientist, it's not what the theory is. And a lot of us, we get very smart. We listen to a lot of people, and a lot of it makes sense. We go around talking about consciousness and unity and oneness and all that stuff. But it's a mental conception. It's not, can you talk about it, but can you prove it? Can you demonstrate that?
Yes.
And a lot of these people, they can't. You know, they talk about it, or they have rationalizations. Like they'll rationalize around it. Oh, well, I'm so unlimited and I'm so free and I'm a spiritual entity. They have all these grandiose words. I'm not sure what they use nowadays, those kids. But when it comes to, well, what can you manifest? Oh, well, money, that's too egoistic. I'm more spiritual than that. You know, they have all these excuses. They talk around it. But if you look at all these masters, look at what Eckhart Tolle did. He was somebody who, he said during the transition of his freedom, he was wondering, what am I going to do for a living? I'm sitting on a bench here. I don't have a job. I don't have anything. But he manifested putting himself on Oprah and getting out to the world in a big way. And I'm sure he didn't have like agents working for him or anything. It just happened because that was his consciousness. You take a look at Yogananda. He set up all these wonderful ashrams all over the United States. He created this whole organization, the Self-Realization Fellowship, out of nothing. Amma, I said before, she created university, hospitals, all these charitable organizations, ashrams all over the world. And she grew up, you know, in the poorest of families in a fishing village in the south of India. All these other
Realizing, Kris, all the people you're mentioning that have manifested great things, they don't come across as the biggest egos in the world. They're actually really selfless. They're completely selfless people.
But they're coming from a consciousness of I'm a master. The whole world is my creation, and I can prove it.
Yes.
That's what every single
Yes.
master does. And they do these demonstrations. And the Bible has all these miracles, turning water to wine, the bread and the fish, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Reincarnation, or whatever you want to call it, the resurrection. We get all these religious ideologies. See, it's the mind trying to understand what happened, and they make all this big hoopla about the resurrection, and it's because Jesus died for your sins. No, he didn't die for your sins. He let them kill him so you can come back a couple of days later and say, look, I'm not the body, and neither are you. I can do this, and so can you. So, and that's why all these great masters, they do these things, not to show off how great they are, but to say, you can do this too.
Yeah.
That's where they're coming from. And that's what Lester's method offers. And that's what we're here to follow in his footsteps and prove it to ourselves.
I just want to ask whether there are people that have questions about what Kris was sharing, or a money goal, or maybe the course. I mean, the course is coming up, and it's really cheap for what you're going to get, because you're going to have access to the 21-day course, which is the beginner's course, which 21 hours or more, like recording, giving you the fundamental foundation principles of releasing of Lester's technique. And then you have access to the money course. And if you cannot pay it in one go, you can even pay it in 3 installments. And basically it's, I find myself going back to the dashboard and going to all the courses that I've bought, relationship course, money alchemy, several money courses, because that's super my focus. But I have now embodied the way of releasing, which is very natural to me. So if I notice something in my body, I just release, and I just think, oh, Angelique, you don't have to listen to the mind anymore. Everything is my picture. I take responsibility, but it takes time. It absolutely takes time to actually go to that level of mastery where you're not consulting the programs of your mind anymore. So I don't know whether anybody has questions, or whether Kris, maybe you have a bit more to say, or maybe somebody that has been on a course, and I'm not going to call out names, maybe they can share a little bit about what they felt the release technique did for them. But no pressure, of course. Yeah, people are stunned, Kris. They think everything is clear. Everybody's going to demonstrate 100,000s or more.
Has been attending, and she put a little heart up. So I think that's her seal of approval. Where
can I find details? Yeah, hi Melinda. Yes, I will post this in on a YouTube, and in the YouTube I will add the course link, and also with that link, which is an affiliate link, you will get the access to the 21-day course, because that is what Kris is generously offering us. So you can also, message Kris, follow Kris on his YouTube. Power of Quiet is his YouTube website. There's lots and lots of releasing videos, but I think, you can release with the videos of Kris, but I think it's really worthwhile to come onto the course and to be, let's say, entangled with the group that is going to do this work together, because you'll also be able to do homework. And the homework is amazing, because you find out how many limiting beliefs you actually have. It's really shocking. I mean, even those of us who've, I don't know, read all the abundant spiritual books in the world, it's still like crazy how many limiting beliefs we have. And also you'll get a partner in the release technique. And I've met one of my partners, he's here actually, and I've met other partners, and these are the most beautiful people, and you know, they help you. Your partner helps you drag out the you know, the addictions of your mind, where you say, no, I can't, no, I can't have this too much money, or no, I can't have the financial freedom. Your partner is going to be your accountability partner, and it's really beautiful to be
But
in
it's
that
just a
community.
struggle. Like I can have it, but I got to work a lot, and it takes all my time. It, I'm sure there are a lot of us here that are successful, that, you know, but we had to put in order to keep that going. So this is also like the next stage, like, because like you had mentioned earlier, when you had shown up at the retreats back then, you saw that there was a difference with the community that came around to this versus a lot of other communities. You know, it's not so woo-woo as
It's
you
very practical, this course. It's goal-oriented almost.
And so, you know, a lot of people that typically get attracted to this are the people that are more doers, that, you know, either business owners, or, you know, they have their own thing going, or, you know, they're coming from a place of, well, I'm going to invest in this. I'm going to put the time in. I'm not looking for someone to give it to me. You know, I'm going to make this work. And those are the ones that really, you know, move forward. And then they start to see a bigger picture of themselves. You know, I'm not just someone who's just a mechanic that, you know, gets things done, but I'm actually much bigger than that. I'm the creator of everything that I see around me. Everything is my picture, and everyone out there is me. You know, one of Lester's talks that kind of gives you a sense of where he's coming from. You know, he starts it off saying, well, I was told I was going to be the surprise tonight and given the talk, and I thought, well, what am I going to talk about? Talk about you or talk about me? And I realized, what's the difference? And everybody laughed.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, inside we realized that, you know, how do I know there's anyone else out there? How do I know I'm not even dreaming right now? Because
Mhm.
when I go to sleep at night and I dream, that in that dream, it seems awfully real. Sometimes in my dream, I'm struggling, or maybe I'm running away from something scary. But then I wake up and I go, oh my God, thank God that was just a dream. You know, I had that experience, right? Who's to say that what we're experiencing right now in this moment is any different than that? So, you know, the ultimate conclusion of all of this is to wake up out of all the dreams and see who you really are. But in the same sense, it gives you the ability to have your life be better, to have it be harmonious, have it be effortless. So yeah, that's what we're all about.
And what I can say is that what I believe, you know, some people, you know, with all the techniques that I've been to, some people prefer a certain way of working. But what I believe is, you know, when you actually haven't gotten the results with some of these other techniques in a specific area, let's say money, I would say it really makes sense to actually try this one if you haven't before, because, you know, a lot of people that I know that have attended the course, they have gotten their money goals. And I know for sure if they would just continue to work on, you know, more like, let's say, financial freedom type of goals, or purpose and money type of goals, or wealth goals, they would get it too. Roy, do you have a question? You raised your hand. Would you like to ask a question? Yes. Hi, Roy. Roy
Hey,
Roy's
hi
waking up for
Chris,
this.
hi Angela. Well,
Hi.
it's like 4:30 a.m. in Singapore, and
Yes.
I just want to say that it's been 10 years since we were releasing partners, Angelic and myself,
Yes.
and we have
Yes.
supported each other all these years. So this is a great cause, mentor and teacher too. Uh, we started the course at the same time, and it's been a long journey. And I
Yes.
think, like Angelique, we also did. I also went through many courses, and the release technique is absolutely the most practical, and it's also teaching you the truth that you're how should I put it to you? Basically, we are all manifesting, and we are creating our reality unconsciously, most of us. And this is one of the most practical method of self-realization, getting your goals. But of course, it takes time. And then taking responsibility, initially when we were working together, and Larry, who is Kris' mentor, and Lester Levenson's student, said, must take full responsibility. Not at first we couldn't understand it, right?
Yes.
Slowly,
You're like, what is that about?
yeah. But
And some people-
later on, you realize
some
that
people fight against
everyone.
that victim blaming.
Yeah, it is. But later on, you realize
From the
that
place of taking responsibility for everything that happens to me.
everything, yes, and that's the absolute truth, because there's no one else but you. You find that everyone is just a projection of you. The world is like a mirror, and you can't change the mirror. You can't change the reflection, because you give out the reflection, right? So the only thing you can do is to change your inner conversation, your own self-thoughts, subconscious mind, etc. And yes, there's lots of things that is hidden, and you could release it. And that's the key. When you release it, more of you, the real you, can be revealed. As you release further, you realize there's more to it. And that's where Lester Levenson talks about, the pie. If one piece of the pie tastes good, so good, how about the rest of the pie, right? So you have to go all the way, and it takes time to learn to be all loving, to realize that you are the creator of the world around you, and there are stories that comes about, and you realize that you need to actually release them, because you created the story as well. And talking about the consciousness is really like a torchlight, right? Something triggers you means that there's something in you, and you need to let it go. So as you grow, more, you feel more and more peaceful, more and more loving. Your relationship improve, your finance improve, your business improve. Everything in your life, even your health, will improve as well. So I think this is one of the most practical courses you could take, because it applies to all areas in our life, and it's a very simple technique. It may be simple, but it's very profound. That's all I want to say. Thank you, Kris.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Roy. And it's so important that, when we look back 10 years ago, and it's completely true, Dr. Joe was then still, he wrote his first book, which is all about the brain. And it was like very difficult to understand that book, I'll tell you. Thomas has a question. I'm just going to finish it, and I'm going to let you ask a question, Thomas. And then literally, Dr. Joe wasn't really focusing on manifesting and demonstrating things. Dr. Joe, his whole work was then, the second book was Break the Habit of Being Yourself. So, and I was just trying to meditate to actually to love myself, because I was attracting very unloving relationships, and I took responsibility. But to completely get out of victim consciousness, I heard it, I realized it, but it wasn't embodied, and in so many ways, it took me several years to get out of of basically the blaming other people for my woes. Like, it was like an addiction, Kris, and it's like, and it felt so right. It felt so like, yeah, but can't you see what they're doing? Of course it's not me. But like literally embodying what I feel I'm embodying now is taking responsibility for everything. That is so much freedom, and the release technique is so practical and so simple to use. And Thomas, do you have a question? Would you like to unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, hi. It's not so much it is a question, but it's also a little bit of an observation. And I've been following this for a while because Angelique is deeply engaged in this material. So I've seen some videos and talks of Kris. And what is interesting for me to see, it seems to be a very straightforward approach that is actually practical and it's actually working. And there's other methods out there who may be more sophisticated, but do they get the results? That's the big question mark. And sometimes when I was watching this, can it be so simple, and this repetitive talking during the release process, or let's say the repetitive thinking? So the question is a little bit, Kris, when you learned from Larry Crane, which is what I understood is the teacher that taught you, how was it for you in the beginning? Were you struggling with, this is so simple, this is so simplistic, can it actually work? Were there some doubts? Because I'm a coach and consultant, and when I'm with clients, it's all about complexity and all the stuff. And then this is such a simplistic way. So how was it for you to make friends with, or really embrace this simplistic, powerful process?
Kris, you're muted. Yeah.
I got disconnected. Came back. I think it was pretty easy for me because I didn't have any spiritual concepts going into this. Previously, I was not interested in any of these topics. So when I came into the method, kind of like I was pointing out how Larry was a direct marketer and was bringing people in with a promise of money and health and all that stuff. That's what I was going for, because I'd been laid off from my job. I was laid off at that point for about 6 months. So I was looking for answers for money. And when I'd met that guy that I described, who'd used the method and was very free and demonstrating all sorts of great things, I decided, wow, if he could do it, I can do it. So I just went home just practicing what he taught me. And it was that easy. In fact, when I started manifesting goals, I did in the most simplest way, just by letting go of my kinesthetic feelings that got stirred up about it. I even know what the thoughts were or the programs. I didn't have to play Dr. Phil with myself. I just felt that feeling, let it go. And I had that goal in mind. My first goal was to have $20,000. And I got it in a month after having taken the course. So, I didn't have to go fight through all these concepts and complexities that, a lot of us kind of get trapped in on the spiritual path. So, later on, when I was living in the Bay Area, I talk about Amma a lot because she has her main ashram in Castro Valley. And I knew someone who was a follower of hers. And so I started going, I saw that Amma was coming from the same place that Lester was. And I hung around her when she would tour through the States for a number of years. And during those times, I'd be exposed and sit around and talk to all these people that studied, all of these Hindu texts, the Bhagavad Gita and all of these things. And they would talk about all these concepts and states and Hinduism, all this stuff. And they'd use all these impressive words. I didn't know what those words were, but what they were describing, I knew exactly what they were talking about. I just didn't have the word for it, but I knew because I'd experienced it. And that's what's so great about this method, is that you don't have to believe anything. You don't have to have any concepts. You just follow the bouncing ball. And everything that all these great masters are talking about, you experience firsthand. So it puts you in that position of, it's not what I say, it's what I can do. So as I went through and I just started experiencing gain after gain after gain, it got me to understand, who I am and what the mind is all about. And I don't have to go down a rabbit hole. I guess, to answer your question, I've been on board with the simplicity of the method, from the beginning. But I think also what helped me too was that my teacher, Larry, he wasn't your average spiritual guru. This guy was brought up, from the basement in the Bronx, and he was a New Yorker through and through. So, and he talked like it. He's basically like the Donald Trump of spirituality. So I likened him not so much to a spiritual guru, but rather a spiritual drill sergeant, and someone that would just put me to task. The way that Larry, would talk to you is like, if you would call him up and say, Larry, you got to help me out. My mind is driving me crazy. Please help me. He would just say, put the owner on the phone. Who am I talking to? Right now, I'm talking to an ego. You're just complaining about your problems. It's just your ego talking to me. Put the owner on the phone now. So
now we can laugh about it. Now we can laugh about it. But when you experience it from Larry, you were like, oh, but actually I was always, that drill sergeant. It was really helpful for me as a beginner.
Touch you right in the face and say, well, what are you going to do about it? And, in that situation, you're confronted with, well, either I can fight with you and call you a nasty person, or run away, or you just punched me in the face. What was that just got punched? What am I going to do about that? And it brings you back upon yourself. See, he punched me in the face again and again, threw up walls of resistance. And in those situations, I always had a decision. Either I make Larry wrong and I run away from the situation that made me feel uncomfortable, or I investigate, why did I feel that way? What was it that gave him an opportunity to punch me? And correct that in myself. And and through that process, I love that, because basically he just poked me, pointed out where my ego was in a way that, what am I going to do about that? And so I got the opportunity to take responsibility and be empowered and say, put my ego aside and dissolve that stuff rather than hide behind it. And that's been an amazing experience in my growth. And to some degree, as best as I can, I try to uphold Larry's tradition of being a drill sergeant. Runa,
you're a really nice drill sergeant, Kris.
Oh, nice. I was going to say Runa could probably attest to that in some of our interactions.
Yeah, I agree. Larry is a real drill sergeant, and actually, it was very helpful, because you get down to it, and later on you find that everything is you, and you just have to love everything, and love is the secret. You just have to love the good and the bad, and then and believe in it enough, do it enough, and then somehow things will change, and you'll be surprised.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Runa, for the beautiful testimonials. And thank you, Kris. I will upload this video and add the link where you can put in your email, and then you can get the video. And if you want to, you can join the course. And if you don't want to, you just get the video and you'll be on the list of Kris. When will it start again? Last week of July, right, Kris?
July 28th. So
July 28th.
6 consecutive weeks. We have live classes on Thursdays and Saturdays. So it's like 5:30 UK time in the evening, and which is, I think, 9:30 US Eastern, no, 12:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Pacific time. So overall, it works pretty well for everybody's time wherever you're at, except for maybe in Singapore, maybe. But even our Aussie friend still manages to join in, and he gets up at 3:30 in the morning.
Yes, I know, Jeremy. Yeah, a lot of Dr. Joe people joined and manifested their goals, so that's great to hear. So yeah, and I've been in this work for 10 years. There's many other teachers that teach Lester Levenson, but I wanted to work with people who I see are a living demonstration of the work, which is they manifest their goals, they change around their relationships if they're struggling in relationships, they even make peace with people that, like your sister, that was really horrible to them. And I've done many interviews with Kris, so if you can't find them, let me send you the interviews with Kris, but there's lots and lots of testimonials about Kris's own life where you can say, wow, if Kris can do it, I can do it too. Anyways, thank you so much, Kris. It's late in Europe. You should all go to bed and contemplate, where is the responsibility and the ownership of the beautiful life that you want to live, of being a master, which is much more than about money. It's really about getting out of the victimhood and the powerlessness that we feel about the world. And it's a great, great gift you can give to yourself. And it's like $495. You can pay it in 3 installments. Really, it's better than an iPhone, this course, I will tell you. Yeah, it's better than, I don't know, what else can you buy at $495? Maybe a pair of shoes, like in one of those shoe shops. Anyways, thank you again, Kris.
Plus you get the 21-day course, which is
yes,
like the A to Z of Lester's method. It goes through it thoroughly, goes through how the mind works in a number of aspects. So you know what you're working with, and it just gives you the framework to start going in and dismantling all those limitations. Yeah.
Yes. And feel free to contact me if you have any questions, because I've been a student, I know some of the other teachers as well, and I can always guide you in the right direction, So lots of love, everybody. Thank you, Kris. Lots of love.
Right.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye, everybody.